On the 18th of December 2023, a Russian court sentenced 3 Jehovah's Witnesses to prison terms of 6.5 to 7.5 years on top of their pre-sentencing detention of 28 months. Witness member Aleksandr Rumyantsev, 46, received a sentence of 7.5 years. Church member Sean Pike, 52, a native of Guyana, received a 7-year term, and 59-year-old Eduard Sviridov received a 6.5-year sentence. The sentences came at the end of a tumultuous year for the members of the group in Russia and were condemned by members of the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom. A total of 127 witnesses are in Russian Federation prisons. Now, I must state up front that I do not condone the imprisonment, torture, or killing of Jehovah's Witnesses or members of any group, whether they be religious or political, simply based on their beliefs. I believe in freedom of expression, freedom of speech, freedom of the right to practice your religion, and freedom of association. However, those freedoms are not absolute. We need to balance individual liberty with, amongst others, protecting others' rights and safety, maintaining public order and safety, or protecting vulnerable groups like children and minorities. The former Soviet Union was based on state atheism, and during this period, Jehovah's Witnesses were oppressed as part of an attack against religion in general. This changed with the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991. For the following 2 decades, Jehovah's Witnesses experienced religious freedom and grew to about 170,000 publishers. This freedom started to tighten in 2009, and then in 2017, the Russian Supreme Court banned the worship of Jehovah's Witnesses. This led to relentless persecution and imprisonment. Authorities have also progressively seized 131 of the properties owned by Jehovah's Witnesses, with an additional 60 properties subject to confiscation. The total value of the properties is estimated to be over $57 million. This is according to jw.org. The media printed articles about the plight of Jehovah's Witnesses, who were referring to it as genocide. We had to escape Russia. This is religious genocide, said the Times of the UK, an article published January the 3rd, 2019. Claims of genocide are sensationalism, and there is no campaign to kill or exterminate Jehovah's Witnesses. A small number of Jehovah's Witnesses have been jailed for breaking the law regarding spreading their religious beliefs. In 2023, around only 127 Russian Jehovah's Witnesses were in prison out of over 175,000 members. Hardly a genocide. As a result of the crackdown, thousands of Jehovah's Witnesses have been forced to flee Russia. The European Commission, Association of Jehovah's Witnesses, estimates that between 5,000 to 10,000 members have sought refuge in other countries. Now, these individuals have been uprooted from their homes, families, and communities, facing an uncertain future due to their religious beliefs. The forced exile and displacement of Jehovah's Witnesses highlight the severity and impact of the Russian government's actions. Furthermore, let's look at the reasons behind the crackdown. One significant aspect of the Jehovah's Witness beliefs is their political neutrality. They refrain from voting, running for office, or engaging in protests aligning with their religious principles. While this stance may have spared them from the arrest and harassment faced by political activists in Russia, it has also made them stand out in a society where patriotism and support for the state are highly valued. Alexander Verkovsky, director of the Moscow-based Sova Center for Information and Analysis, suggests that the Jehovah's Witnesses' apolitical nature raises suspicion in the eyes of the authorities, making them a target for persecution. In recent years, the Russian government has actively promoted patriotism and nationalism as a means of consolidating support for President Vladimir Putin. This wave of patriotism has been closely tied to the Russian Orthodox Church and the armed forces. However, Jehovah's Witnesses' refusal to participate in military service due to their religious beliefs has made them conspicuous in a society where loyalty to the state is highly valued. Emily Barron, a history professor at Middle Tennessee State University, suggests that the inability to control the Jehovah's Witnesses community may make the state uncomfortable, further contributing to their persecution. The Jehovah's Witnesses' historical ties to the United States have also raised suspicion within the Russian government. As an organization that originated in the United States and maintains its headquarters there, the Jehovah's Witnesses' connection to a foreign country has made them a target for scrutiny. The Russian government's hostility towards the West, particularly the United States, has further amplified the suspicion. While religious groups were initially exempt from the stringent foreign agents law, the Jehovah's Witnesses' ties to the United States likely drew attention and scrutiny from Russian authorities. While Russia's authoritarian tendencies and the use of extremism laws to suppress dissenting voices are not new, the crackdown on Jehovah's Witnesses stands out for its ferocity and persistence. The Russian government has allocated considerable resources to target the group, employing wiretapping, extensive surveillance, and invasive methods to catch individuals discussing their faith or the Bible, deemed extremist activities under Russian law. The suspicion and persecution of Jehovah's Witnesses in Russia can be traced back to Soviet era when the group was outlawed and subjected to relentless negative portrayals in the press. The historical stigma, coupled with conspiracy theories that have circulated within governmental structures, has created a deep-rooted suspicion towards the group. Now, Aleksandr Rumyantsev highlights that these conspiracy theories are not presented to the public, making it challenging to address or debunk them openly. What's happening to the Jehovah's Witness group in Russia or any other country where they are targeted feeds into their persecution complex. Bible passages say that Jesus' followers would be hated and persecuted. Now, Watchtower regularly presents examples of Jehovah's Witnesses experiencing persecution as proof that they are Jesus' true followers. It also warns them to prepare for persecution. Scriptures like this. In Matthew 10, verse 22, "You will be objects of hatred by all people on account of my name." 2 Timothy 3, verse 12, "In fact, all those desiring to live with godly devotion in association with Christ Jesus will also be persecuted." Watchtower applies these scriptures to Jehovah's Witnesses. Since the days of Abel, many of Jehovah's servants have endured religious persecution. That's according to Luke 49 to 51. And no wonder, for the Bible warns that all those desiring to live with godly devotion in association with Christ Jesus will also be persecuted. Accordingly, today in more than 25 countries, Jehovah's Witnesses are under ban and endure persecution. That was from the Watchtower 1995, September the 1st. He attempts to intimidate us through peer pressure or persecution so that we will stop preaching. That's according to Examining the Scriptures Daily in 2022, June 29th. So Watchtower likens the hatred of Jehovah's Witnesses to these early Christians.
If they've persecuted me, they will also persecute you. Jesus' words. And Paul saw the truth of Jesus' words. As a follower of Jesus, Paul experienced much persecution and tribulation. And isn't it true we see the same today? Satan still challenges the integrity of Jehovah's people. In fact, the Bible indicates that Satan will increase his attacks on Jehovah's people in these last days. And we see this happening. As we look at the attacks being made on Jehovah's people around the world, we think of our brothers in Eritrea, our brothers in Korea, in Russia, other places, and even smaller attacks that we may not even personally hear about. Truly, Jesus' words are being fulfilled today. But the question we want to consider today is, what about us personally? See, the text says that if they've persecuted me, Jesus said, they will persecute you. In 2 Timothy 3 and verse 12, it says, all those desiring to live with godly devotion will be persecuted. So that means we're not exempt. And as our text highlights, things can quickly turn. Sometimes it's outright persecution from governments, opposition from family members. In other cases, it may be efforts to block our work, to hamper a theocratic project or another initiative. How will we do when faced with persecution and opposition?
It is important to note that countries that impose bans and restrictions on Jehovah's Witnesses do so for a range of other groups as well. If Jehovah's Witnesses were the only religion banned in multiple countries, they could claim they are being uniquely targeted for persecuted. But this is not the case. Jehovah's Witnesses are just one of many religions that have these restrictions imposed. In Russia, people belonging to other faiths are also serving long prison terms for the practice of their faith, including 6 Protestants, 11 Muslims, 2 from different sects, 2 Greek Catholics, 2 Orthodox, and 1 shaman. So Jehovah's Witnesses are not being singled out for persecution. They are one of many groups that experience these bans, restrictions, and imprisonment. On the other hand, Jehovah's Witnesses are being assisted by prominent human rights groups. Amnesty International is devoted to human rights regardless of religious or ethnic background and has received recognition for their work, for the work they do in the Watchtower. It is common to hold a viewpoint that is disagreed with, but a different matter to be hated and persecuted for that viewpoint. Jehovah's Witnesses often label criticism as persecution, including negative comments online, criticism in the media, or confrontation when witnessing. Politics provides a fitting example of how disagreement differs to hatred and persecution. Political viewpoints incite extreme emotions in people, hence the rule of etiquette to never talk about religion or politics. It is common for people to hold widely different political views, often leading to angry debate, but it is not considered persecution when a person writes critically of another political viewpoint. Watchtower tries to play the victim card for behavior that is self-imposed when it warns newly converted Jehovah's Witnesses that they may be treated like an enemy by family. The Watchtower of November 2018 states this: people view us differently because our values have changed. We live by the standards of Bible truth. Though we do not want to cause division, some friends and close family members may distance themselves from us or even oppose our newfound faith. This does not surprise us. Jesus acknowledged, indeed, a man's enemies will be those of his own household. He also gave assurance that the rewards for buying truth far exceed any price we may pay. That's according to the November 18th Watchtower Study Edition. In reality, it is usually the newly converted Jehovah's Witnesses that distances themselves from their worldly family and friends. On the other hand, if a person chooses to stop identifying as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, they are routinely shunned. Watchtower says not to fear being hated and persecuted, yet it is Watchtower that keeps publishing graphic images and articles about persecution. They understand the power of fear, and their devotion to this topic keeps fear at front of mind. The sharp focus on persecution has more to do with inciting fear, whilst very few Jehovah's Witnesses have experienced or will ever experience true persecution. The devotion Watchtower has to the topic makes it appear common and inevitable. It is tragic that some Jehovah's Witnesses have suffered abuse, torture, and death. However, They have no right to make any special claims about being persecuted, as the numbers are insignificant compared to the total number of people that have been persecuted for their religious beliefs. Millions of people are persecuted each year throughout the world. Watchtower ensures Jehovah's Witnesses have a persecution complex by regularly including experiences of persecution and saying to expect it in the future. The fear this creates is a classic means to ensure control and solidarity. Significantly, persecution of Jehovah's Witnesses has often been the direct result of hypocritical leaders sitting safely in their headquarters whilst affecting the lives of followers in countries far out of their reach.